I gave my parents $1,000 a week, every single week, for 3 years. That's $156,000. I know, it sounds insane. I used to think so too. Until I found myself checking my bank account every Friday morning, watching another 1,000 disappear. Rent, insurance, utilities, car payments. I always made sure they had everything they needed. Meanwhile, I lived in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate who snored through the walls and cooked fish at midnight. I hadn't taken a vacation in 4 years. I wore the same 3 pairs of shoes, cycled through 2 jackets, and said no to every dinner invite that wasn't under $10. But I told myself it was okay, because family takes care of each other, right? My parents weren't rich, never were, but they were proud. My dad worked as a mechanic his whole life. My mom did part-time shifts at a local daycare. They never asked for much growing up, and I always respected that. So when Dad got laid off during the pandemic, I didn't hesitate. I remember that call like it was yesterday, Mom's voice trembling, tears in her throat. "Sweetheart, we're not doing well. The mortgage is late, and your father's medication is getting expensive." I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, my stomach turning. "Of course," I whispered. "I'll take care of it." And I did. Again and again and again. At first it felt good, like I was stepping into my power, like I was giving back. Every payment felt like a thank you for the roof they gave me as a child, for every packed lunch, every birthday cake. But slowly, something shifted. It became expected. There were no more thank yous, no more late-night calls filled with gratitude, just quiet text messages. Sometimes not even that. Just an automatic withdrawal and radio silence. Worse, every time I visited, the atmosphere felt off, cold. I would walk in, arms full of groceries, exhausted from work, and my mom would smile like I was just another visitor. My dad would grunt from behind the newspaper. They'd ask me how work was, then shift the conversation to Ryan, my younger brother, the golden boy. Ryan lived in a high-rise downtown with his wife and 2 dogs. He hadn't sent our parents a dime, but he posted selfies from vineyards, golf, courses, 5-star dinners, and every time I brought up the topic, my mom would say the same thing. "Ryan's working so hard. You know how demanding his job is." Meanwhile, I was working 12-hour days and transferring a quarter of my paycheck to them like clockwork. Still, I bit my tongue. I convinced myself they just didn't see it, that one day they would realize what I was doing, how much I was sacrificing, that one day they'd thank me. I didn't want praise. I just wanted inclusion, to feel like part of the family again. Then, one Saturday morning, everything changed. I was curled up on the couch with a blanket and instant coffee, scrolling aimlessly through Instagram when I saw it. A photo. My mom, my dad, Ryan, his wife, all standing on the deck of a boat, smiling. No, not a boat, a yacht. Behind them, the water was crystal blue. The caption read, "Santorini sunsets with the best people in the world. Family trip. Blessed," I stared at it for a full minute, unsure if I was dreaming. Santorini? I scrolled down. Post after post. Matching white outfits, wine tastings, rooftop dinners. Laughing at the beach, and not one message to me. No invite, no call, not even a mention. I blinked, my heart pounding, heat rising up my chest. I had paid their mortgage the month before, paid their utilities, paid for my father's prescription medication, had skipped my own birthday dinner because money was tight. And they were in Greece, with Ryan, without me. I tried to convince myself maybe it was a last-minute thing. Maybe they assumed I couldn't go. But the longer I stared, the more my hands started to shake. There were comments from friends. Looks amazing. Where's your daughter? My mom had replied with a heart emoji, no mention of my name. I put my phone down, breathing hard. Something inside me shattered. I wasn't just excluded. I was erased. I didn't text my mom after I saw the photos. I didn't call. I just sat there, holding my phone like it was radioactive, kept telling myself there had to be some explanation. Maybe they assumed I was busy. Maybe Ryan paid for the trip and it wasn't planned in advance. Maybe they felt guilty asking me. Maybe. But the truth clawed at the back of my throat. They excluded me, deliberately. Still, I needed to hear it from them. I needed to know just how far the betrayal went. So I sent a casual text. Me. Hey Mom, how's everything going this week? She replied 15 minutes later. Mom, we're good, sweetheart. Just running errands. It's been a quiet week. I stared at the message. No mention of Greece. No mention of sunshine, yachts, sunsets, or Ryan. Just running errands. My fingers trembled as I typed my next message. Me. Nice. Thinking of doing a family dinner at my place next week. You guys around? A pause. Then another lie. Mom. Not sure, honey. We've been feeling a little under the weather. I think we just need to rest for a few days. Rest? They were sipping champagne on a yacht 3 days ago. I could still see the photo, my mom's head resting on Ryan's shoulder, both of them grinning like life had never been better. The woman who just told me she was under the weather had been wearing a white sun hat and smiling like she was in a movie. The rage didn't come all at once. It dripped in slowly, like a leaking faucet. Cold, calculated, humiliating. I stared at my phone and typed one more message. Me. Need anything? Groceries? Meds? Mom, if you can send a little for Dad's prescriptions, that'd be helpful. About $300. Of course. Of course it was about money. Again. I sat there in silence, staring at those words until my vision blurred. For a moment, I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd it almost felt unreal. I gave them $1,000 a week, and they still had the nerve to ask for more. While they were on a luxury vacation, with my brother, I needed the truth, not the soft version they handed out like stale bread. The real truth. That night, I drove to the only person who would know exactly where they had been all week. Mr. Evans, the elderly neighbor who lived across the street from my parents. He was the kind of guy who noticed everything, who left the porch light on, who forgot trash day, who came and went. I parked quietly outside his gate and walked up to his garden. Evening, Mr. Evans, I called gently. Mind if I ask you something? He looked up from trimming a rose bush, blinking, behind his thick glasses. Well, if it isn't Maya, haven't seen you around in a bit. Everything okay? Yeah, I lied. Just wondering. My folks, they've been home this week, right? Mr. Evans chuckled. Home? No, they just got back yesterday. My stomach tightened. They were gone? Yup, he said, wiping his hands on a towel. Some big family trip, I think. Asked me to water their plants and feed the fish. Sounded like they were going somewhere fancy. Florida or Italy, I forget. Florida? Greece? Whatever it wasn't running errands. I nodded slowly, forcing a smile. Thanks, Mr. Evans. Just checking in. But my hands were already clenched into fists by the time I reached the car. They lied. They lied to my face. Lied while spending the money I worked myself raw to earn. Lied while laughing on boats and sipping wine and posing for family portraits that didn't include me. They erased me. I drove home in silence, headlights cutting through the night. My face was blank, but inside I was burning, not just with rage, but with clarity. I had thought they just forgot me, but now I knew better. They didn't forget me. They just didn't want me there. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't ask for an explanation. I just got in my car and drove. The next morning, I pulled into their driveway at 9 a.m. sharp. The sun was rising behind the house, golden and soft, like nothing had ever gone wrong. But everything had. Their car was all ready. There, curtains drawn. The front door closed. I knocked twice. A moment passed before the door creaked open, and there was my mother, wearing a floral robe, her hair still pinned back from sleep. "Maya," she said, blinking. "You didn't say you were coming." "No," I replied. "I didn't want to interrupt your errands." Her face froze for a second, then softened. "Oh, well, come in." I stepped inside, and instantly it hit me. The smell of ocean-scented candles. A stack of luggage by the staircase. 2 straw hats on the table. One of them still had a tour sticker attached. I walked slowly into the living room, taking in the signs. A Greek guidebook. A camera charging in the corner. A bottle of imported olive oil sitting on the counter. So much for being sick. My father entered from the kitchen. "Maya," he said, surprised. "Is everything all right?" I looked at him, really looked at him, tanned, relaxed, healthier than I'd seen him in months. "Oh, I'm fine," I said, my voice calm. "Just wanted to drop by, check in, see how you two were doing." My mother shifted uncomfortably. "We've been resting. It's been a long week." "Oh, I know," I said, walking over to the dining table. I picked up a photo from the counter. All of them, on the balcony of a hotel overlooking the Aegean Sea. Greece looked exhausting. Her breath caught. "Maya, you know what's funny?" I interrupted. "I had to find out from Instagram. Not from you. Not from Dad. From a friend. A stranger. You never even thought to tell me. We didn't think you'd want to come," my dad said quickly. "You're always working." I turned slowly to face him. "I was working to pay your bills." "Maya, don't be dramatic," my mom said. "It wasn't like that. It was just a little trip. Ryan planned it. And you just forgot I existed?" "No," she snapped. "We didn't forget. We just figured you wouldn't fit in with the vibe. You're so tense lately." I laughed, hollow and sharp. "Tense? Maybe because I'm the only one who treats this family like a responsibility instead of a hobby." They said nothing. I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and opened my banking app. "You know what I realized?" I said. "I've sent you over $50,000 in the last year. $50,000. My mom flinched. "That's not counting the car repairs, or Dad's meds, or the property taxes. That's just what I've transferred. Every week, like a job. Except it wasn't a job. It was me thinking I mattered." My father stepped forward. "We never asked you to. You never had to," I cut in. "Because you knew I would. Because you made me believe I had no choice." A silence fell over the room. You could hear the clock ticking above the mantel. Then, with one tap, I hit cancel. Every recurring payment I had set up, gone. I turned the screen toward them. "No more," I said. "Maya, please," my mom whispered. "Don't do this. We needed a break. You don't understand the pressure we're under." "No," I said. "You don't understand the pressure I was under. Trying to make you comfortable while you erased me from your lives." My dad's face darkened. "You're being selfish." I stared at him. "No, I'm finally being fair. To myself." I stepped back toward the door. My mom's voice cracked. "So that's it? You're just going to cut us off?" I paused at the frame, then turned back. "You already did. The second you looked at Ryan and said, 'This is our family.'" I thought that was the end of it. I thought I'd walk out of their house, and that would be the moment everything changed. That they'd sit in the silence of their choices and maybe, just maybe, reflect. I was wrong. 2 days later, there was a knock at my door. Loud, fast, angry. I already knew who it was. I opened the door to find Ryan, and behind him, my parents. Ryan was dressed in some overpriced golf shirt, sunglasses still on, like he'd just walked off the vacation brochure. "Maya," he said, stepping into my space. "What the hell are you doing?" I didn't move. "Hello to you too." "You're making a scene," he snapped. "Mom and Dad are devastated. You canceled their support? Really?" "Yes," I said simply. "I did. You know how hard things are for them? And you, what? You just walk in and start pulling strings like you're some savior?" My mom stepped forward, voice trembling. "Sweetheart, you're being irrational. We didn't mean to hurt you." I folded my arms. "Then why did you lie? Why did you erase me from that trip like I didn't exist?" Ryan scoffed. "Oh, come on. You're seriously mad over a vacation? This is about Greece?" "No," I said coldly. "It's about respect, and you all made it clear I never had any." "You're being dramatic," he said. "This is exactly why we didn't invite you. You're always so sensitive." That's when I heard the footsteps behind me. Layla, my roommate, stepped into the hallway. Calm, poised, her eyes sharp. She looked at the three of them, then at me. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm good," I said, not taking my eyes off Ryan. Ryan looked at her, then back at me. "Oh, so now you've got backup?" Layla stepped forward. "You know," she said, her voice even. "I've watched Maya wake up at 6 a.m. every morning, work 2 jobs, cut corners, skip meals, so she could keep sending money to people who didn't even send her a thank you." My mom's face twisted. "That's not true." "It is," Layla snapped. "You used her. And now that she stopped, you brought your golden boy to guilt trip her?" Ryan stepped toward her. "You don't know what you're talking about." "No," Layla said. "You don't." The air in the room thickened. My father finally spoke, his voice low and heavy. "Maya, be careful who you let speak for you." I looked him dead in the eye. "I don't need anyone to speak for me. I just need you to finally listen." I walked to the kitchen, pulled out a file folder, and returned to the door. I handed it to Ryan. He opened it and stared. Printed bank statements. Every transfer. Every receipt. Every dollar I had sent. "You think I'm doing this for drama?" I said. "That's $156,000. That's 3 years of me living like a ghost, so you could pretend I didn't exist until the bills were due." My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father's jaw tightened. Ryan flipped through the pages, then shut the folder. "So what? You want praise? A trophy? You gave money. That doesn't make you the victim." Layla stepped forward again. "No, but it makes her human. And you treated her like an ATM." My mother shook her head. "We were just trying to keep things light. You've always been so serious." "You went to Santorini," I said, my voice cracking. "You clinked glasses with the son who hasn't. Sent you a dime. You asked me for money while you were watching sunsets on a yacht." Silence. Layla looked at them and whispered, "You don't deserve her." They didn't argue. They didn't deny it. I stepped back into the apartment and picked up my phone from the counter. Without saying another word, I opened my banking app again. This time, I tapped through until I reached a new tab. I turned the screen toward them. "I made a $5,000 donation yesterday," I said, "to a women's shelter, in your name." My mom's eyes widened. "Why?" "Because I figured if I'm going to be taken for granted," I said, It might as well be by people who actually need the help. Ryan stepped back, looking like he'd been slapped. My father stared at the floor. My mom opened her mouth, but no words came out. "I'm done," I said. "Not just with the money, with the guilt, the silence, the fake love. All of it." I turned to Layla. "Close the door." She did. I didn't even watch them walk away. I just stood in the hallway, listening to the footsteps fade, and for the first time in years, I felt taller. A week passed. I thought maybe the silence would feel like punishment, that I'd sit by the phone, waiting for an apology, or some desperate call begging me to change my mind. But the silence felt good, peaceful, like I had finally stepped out of a storm that wasn't mine to weather anymore. Then, one morning, my phone buzzed. Mr. Evans, the neighbor across from my parents, the one who fed their fish, the one who saw everything. "Hey there, Maya," his voice crackled through the phone. "Hope I'm not bothering you." "Not at all," I said, already sensing something. "Well, thought you might want to know. Heard quite the shouting match across the street last night. Your folks and your brother. Real nasty stuff." I paused. "Ryan?" "Yep. Seems they finally turned to him for money. And he didn't take it well." I didn't respond. Just listened. "Said he's not going to carry the burden your daughter was stupid enough to shoulder," Mr. Evans said, then hesitated. His words, not mine. I let out a dry breath. "No surprise." "They all started screaming," he continued, "about betrayal, abandonment, who owes what. Ryan stormed out, said he's done." I closed my eyes. So it was happening. The golden boy had snapped. My parents were alone now. Not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually. They'd burned every bridge, used up every life raft, and all that was left was the wreckage. "Thanks, Mr. Evans," I said quietly. "I appreciate you telling me," he chuckled softly. "Not often the good one wins in the end, but I think you did, kid." Weeks passed, and then, like clockwork, my mom called. I didn't answer the first time, or the second, but on the third try I picked up. Her voice was smaller than I remembered. Fragile. "Maya," she said. I didn't say anything. Just waited. "I'm sorry," she whispered. There was a long pause. "I know we hurt you," she continued. "I know we used you, lied to you, took your kindness and treated it like an allowance." I swallowed. My throat felt tight. "We were wrong," she said. "About everything. And we miss you." I closed my eyes. "Where's Dad?" She hesitated. "In the other room. He's not good with apologies, but he told me to say it." I sat in silence for a moment, then asked, "And Ryan?" She exhaled shakily. "He won't speak to us." I opened my eyes. He was never built for the weight. He just liked being the favorite. Another silence. "I'm not calling to ask for money," she said. "I swear, I just want a chance to fix what we broke." Her voice cracked. "I miss my daughter, the one I should have seen sooner, the one I pushed aside. I didn't cry. I thought I might. But instead, I felt calm. Clear. "You hurt me," I said. "You made me feel invisible, like I didn't matter unless I was paying." "I know," she whispered. "And if I could take it all back—" "You can't," I cut in. "But maybe you can change what comes next." She didn't answer. So I said, "I'm not ready to come home, but maybe I'll call you next week." That's all I can offer." Her voice was trembling. "I'll take it. Thank you." I hung up. 3 months later, I visited. The house looked smaller. My father answered the door. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just stepped aside and let me in. We sat in the living room, where I had once stacked bills and signed checks. Now I sat with empty hands. "Hi, Dad," I said. He stared at the floor. Then, quietly, he said, "I'm sorry." 2 words. Heavy, crooked, real. He didn't explain himself. Didn't defend what they did. He just let the words hang there. And, for the first time in a long time, I believed him. Months turned into years. I never moved back in. I never wired them another dollar. But I did rebuild something. A boundary. A relationship where I wasn't a bank, or a background character, or an emotional mule. Just a daughter. Eventually, I forgave them. Not because they deserved it, but because I deserved peace. People think betrayal always ends in revenge. Sometimes it ends in silence. Sometimes it ends in distance. And sometimes, if you're lucky, it ends with clarity. I gave my parents $1,000 a week, and in the end, I got something better than their praise. I got myself back.